Imagine a nation gripped by the iron fists of street gangs, its urban communities held hostage to violence and extortion. For years, El Salvador struggled to break free from this cycle of fear, despite employing heavy-handed tactics known as mano dura. But then, in March 2022, a new chapter began with President Nayib Bukele's administration, wielding unprecedented power in an all-out war against the gangs. How did this hardline crackdown manage to overpower the once indomitable forces of El Salvador's underworld? Let's delve into the heart of the matter. But who were these gangs targeting with such brutality? Their message was clear. Nayib Bukele, the man who had promised to radically reduce crime and change El Salvador's image abroad. Bukele had refurbished Surf City, a beachfront real estate on the Pacific coast, renaming it to attract international tourists. The gang members left corpses and human remains on the road leading to Surf City, a gruesome display of their power and defiance. The story of this bloody massacre made headlines worldwide, shining a spotlight on Bukele's response. His infamous crackdown began with a declaration of a state of emergency, leading to extreme legal measures that blurred the lines of democracy. Bukele's policies allowed for arrests without warrants, denied detainees the right to a lawyer, and authorized the state to intercept civilian communications.
This rural community is now the focus of El Salvador's war on gangs. Thousands of soldiers are out on patrol, controlling access into and out of Cabañas, searching and questioning anyone they find suspicious.
Before Bukele's presidency, previous governments attempted crackdowns on the country's notorious street gangs, primarily the Mara Salvatrucha, or MS-13, and the Barrio 18 factions. However, these efforts made with limited success, as the gangs always found a way to regroup and adapt. The turning point came with the Bukele administration's historic crackdown, marked by the implementation of a state of emergency, a drastic measure never before seen in El Salvador's fight against gangs.
You can ask the people, the woman at her home, the one selling tortillas, the one selling pupusas. Ask them what they think of El Salvador, what they think of this government.
The state of emergency, initially intended for responding to catastrophic events, was leveraged to grant unprecedented powers to the government. Legislatures aligned with Bukele approved the enactment of the state of emergency following a series of brutal gang massacres in March 2022. This move, unprecedented in Salvadorian history, suspended basic constitutional rights, including the right to legal defense and freedom of movement. It also granted security forces broad authority to make arrests without warrants and intercept civilian communications. With these extreme legal measures in place, security forces launched a blitzkrieg on the gangs, resulting in over 33,000 arrests in the first 2 months alone. The emergency laws allowed for indefinite detention of individuals based on vague charges, often relying on uncorroborated intelligence and information from social media. Additionally, new legal reforms increased jail sentences for gang membership and expanded the scope of anti-gang laws to target not only members, but also collaborators and aspiring members. Critical to the administration's efforts was its consolidation of political power. Bukele's party, Nuevas Ideas, used its supermajority in the Legislative Assembly to enact and prolong the state of emergency. The Assembly also purged the judiciary, ensuring alignment with the administration's agenda. Despite widespread allegations of state abuses and violations of due process, the courts remained silent, further cementing Bukele's control over various branches of government. While the crackdown's impact has been transformative, the thousands of arrests and the significant disruption to gang operations, the gangs are not yet defeated. Government data indicates that a substantial number of gang members and collaborators remain at large. The government's claim of arresting over 52,000 MS-13 members, 13,000 Barrio 18 Sureños members, and 10,000 Barrio 18 Revolucionarios members underscores the scale of the operation. However, the crackdown's effectiveness has raised questions about its long-term impact and the sustainability of its extreme measures. Despite the arrests and disruptions, the gangs are not completely eradicated, with some cells still active, particularly in rural areas where they initially sought refuge. The government's data also reveals that over 42,000 gang members and collaborators remain at large as of September 2023, indicating that the gangs still pose a significant challenge.
Now, for residents like Maritza, a shopkeeper, there's a new sense of freedom.
La seguridad era bastante mala.
It was really unsafe.
We couldn't leave our doors open because guys we didn't want to associate with would come in. They'd come to shops, ask for rent that people had to pay.
The most visible impact of the crackdown is the significant reduction in gang presence in neighborhoods once dominated by the MS-13 and Barrio 18. These gangs exerted control through a network of low-level members and collaborators, enforcing strict rules and punishing rule breakers. However, following the state of emergency, residents report a dramatic change in their communities. In areas previously under gang control, residents no longer face constant surveillance or strict rules on movement. They have reclaimed community spaces and initiated projects without fear of gang interference. The absence of gangs has allowed for the revival of community activities, such as soccer tournaments, that were previously hindered by territorial boundaries set by rival gangs. While some residents mentioned the return of released gang members, they noted that these actors have significantly less power than before. Schools may be the last public spaces where remnants of gangs operate, highlighting the extent of the crackdown's impact on gang influence. The absence of gangs in once dominant territories marks a significant shift in the criminal landscape of El Salvador. Previously, residents needed gang permission to transit through disputed areas, and the gangs controlled local economies, dictating who could sell what and where. Now, residents report a sense of freedom and security they have not experienced in years. They no longer face the threat of reprisals for interacting with authorities, and community projects are flourishing without gang interference. The disappearance of gangs from these neighborhoods is a testament to the effectiveness of the state of emergency in disrupting their operations. However, concerns remain about the possible presence of gang structures in schools, which could serve as the last bastion for gang remnants. While residents in some areas do not consider this a pressing issue, it underscores the challenges that remain in completely eradicating gang influence.
But peace has come at a price, and there's still a sense of fear, this time of being falsely accused.
Fear still exists because of these families of the gangs that seek to harm others that have nothing to do with the gangs. Before, these people would threaten you. Now, though, the threat is that they will falsely report you.
With the gang's loss of manpower and territory, their ability to operate extortion rackets has been severely curtailed. Extortion was a primary source of income for many gang cells, targeting small and medium-sized businesses, street vendors, shop owners, bus operators, and taxi drivers. Before the state of emergency, the gangs brutally enforced extortion fees, often resorting to violence against those who failed to pay. However, residents in former gang strongholds now report that they no longer receive extortion threats. Bus companies, once a prime target for extortion, have also noted a cessation of extortion demands since the crackdown began. The significant reduction in extortion complaints reported to the police is a clear indication of the crackdown's impact on the gang's financial operations. The gang's reliance on proxies to collect extortion payments has been disrupted, leaving them unable to maintain their criminal economies. The Bukele administration's crackdown has had a transformative impact on gang structures in El Salvador. The government claims to have arrested tens of thousands of gang members, including leaders, and has significantly reduced the number of armed gang cells operating in the country. Despite these claims, data from police intelligence reports indicate that a substantial number of gang members and collaborators remain at large. This suggests that while the crackdown has dealt a significant blow to the gangs, they have not been completely defeated. The government's control over various branches of government, including the legislature and the judiciary, has played a crucial role in the crackdown's success. The enactment of emergency laws, which suspend constitutional rights and allows for mass arrests without warrants, has given security forces unprecedented power to target the gangs. The administration has also implemented legal reforms to keep gang members behind bars, including increasing jail sentences for gang membership and expanding the scope of anti-gang laws to target a broader range of individuals. These measures have made it easier for security forces to arrest suspected gang members and collaborators, leading to a sharp increase in the number of arrests. While the crackdown has been effective in disrupting gang operations, concerns remain about the government's use of emergency powers and the erosion of constitutional rights. Critics argue that the crackdown has led to widespread human rights abuses, including arbitrary arrest and detention without due process. Despite these concerns, the Bukele administration has shown no signs of easing its hardline approach to combating the gangs. The state of emergency has been extended multiple times, indicating that the government is committed to using all available means to eradicate gang violence in El Salvador.
Turning one of the most dangerous countries in Latin America into a place where you can now walk freely on the streets. He touts El Salvador as a beautiful tourism destination and as a country that's finally prospering.
Imagine living in a neighborhood where the threat of gang violence looms large every day. For many Salvadorians, this was a harsh reality, with gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 exerting control over their communities for years. However, President Bukele's crackdown has brought about a dramatic change in these areas. Before the state of emergency, residents in gang-controlled neighborhoods faced constant surveillance and strict rules imposed by the gangs. These rules dictated everything from movement within the community to economic activities, creating a climate of fear and oppression. The gangs enforced their rules through intimidation and violence, often resorting to brutal punishments for those who disobeyed. Residents lived in constant fear of reprisals for interacting with authorities or violating gang-imposed restrictions. However, since the crackdown began, residents have reported a significant change in their neighborhoods. The gang's grip on these communities has loosened, allowing residents to reclaim public spaces and engage in activities without fear of gang reprisals. Residents now enjoy greater freedom of movement and have initiated community projects that were previously impossible under gang rule. The revival of inter-community soccer tournaments, for example, highlights the newfound sense of freedom and community spirit in these areas. Moreover, the absence of gang extortion has had a positive impact on the local economy. Small business owners no longer live in fear of extortion demands, allowing them to operate without the threat of violence or financial loss. The decline in gang activity has also paved the way for community rebuilding efforts. Residents are taking back control of their neighborhoods, organizing cleanup campaigns and community events to foster a sense of unity and pride. The reduction in gang presence has also led to improved relationships with law enforcement. Residents are more willing to cooperate with police, leading to increased trust and collaboration in tackling crime. In El Salvador, the long-standing battle between street gangs like MS-13 and Barrio 18 took a dramatic turn under President Nayib Bukele's administration. Previous governments had struggled to curb gang influence, resorting to heavy-handed police that yielded little lasting progress. However, Bukele's approach, marked by extreme legal measures and political power consolidation, achieved unprecedented success. The key to Bukele's strategy was the declaration of a state of emergency, granting his government sweeping authority in its war against gangs. This move led to the arrest of thousands of gang members and collaborators, disrupting their operations and severely limiting their ability to generate revenue through extortion and drug trafficking. The crackdown's impact was felt more acutely in communities once controlled by gangs. Residents experienced newfound freedom as gang influence waned, allowing for the revival of community activities and economic growth without the shadow of extortion looming over them. The decline in gang activity also fostered better relationships between residents and law enforcement, leading to increased cooperation in crime prevention efforts. Despite the crackdown's success, challenges remain. Gangs are not completely eradicated, and some areas still experience extortion and criminal activity, albeit on a smaller scale. The government's data shows that a significant number of gang members and collaborators remain at large, indicating the fight against gangs is far from over. As El Salvador continues its battle against gangs, the success of Bukele's approach offers hope for a safer and more prosperous future. The transformation of once embattled communities underscores the resilience of the Salvadorian people and their ability to overcome adversity. The story of El Salvador's fight against gangs is a testament to the power of decisive leadership and bold action. It serves as a reminder that, with determination and unity, even the most daunting challenges can be overcome. As El Salvador looks to the future, the lessons learned from this chapter in its history will undoubtedly guide its path towards lasting peace and prosperity.